What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about some of the best NFL Week 14 route running. So we're going to be taking a look at this Sluggo route here from Jerry Jeudy, this post out from Adam Thielen, and then we're going to be talking about how you guys can get yards after the catch. So we're going to be talking about some of these moves that you can make with the ball in your hand so you could create a little bit more space for yourself, get some more yak yardage, and get some more yards after contact as well, and yards after the catch, okay? And guys, if you're a receiver and you want to get better at your press releases, you need to get better off the line, knowing what to do and when to do it, right? Check out that very first link in the description. It says 20 press releases with drills, right? We give you 20 press releases with specific drills to work on those press releases with certain scenarios that you can use those releases, okay? So if you want to get better press releases, check out that very first link in the description. Let's get started. So number one here, we're going to be looking at this Sluggo route, right? So this Sluggo route, we're going to watch it full speed, then we're going to break it down again. So you see how Jeudy comes off here, he breaks to the slant, pops this thing off, and then accelerates upfield and gets some separation, okay? So now let's talk about what makes this route work. So when he comes off of here, and he breaks towards this slant, right? Very sudden with the stick, right? But when we're working any double move, right? Whether it's a post corner, whether it's a corner post, whichever it is, you want to make sure that you're able to sell with your body, your hips and your shoulders, your eyes, and then you keep the same speed into the break, okay? So I think those are the three key points that on every double move you should really focus on, right? So when he breaks here, the thing is that the first thing that snaps are under his eyes. But again, where's this DB? This DB's going off a field, right? Especially when a DB's in zone coverage and he has those eyes in the backfield, right? He's looking at that quarterback. That's how we know that it's zone coverage. But again, he snaps his shoulders, snaps his hips, and he stays in stride. Those are the three keys, because it's not enough to just give your eyes and then have your body drift upfield, because that doesn't draw that DB in. The whole goal is to draw the DB in and get him to crash on this slant. So if I snap my eyes, right, but my hips and my shoulders are drifting upfield, ain't nobody believing that you're going to be running a slant. Nobody runs a slant that way, right? And then also, let's say you snap your eyes, you commit your shoulders, you commit your hips, but your steps are real choppy. Nobody's going to believe that either, because nobody's going to run a slant over the middle running half speed or chopping their steps. They're going to be in stride. They're going to be full speed because they're trying to widen the distance with him, right? So we want to make everything like this look like a slant. Everything about this looks like a slant. So again, he's coming in here, 3 full steps. So he breaks here. It's 1, 2, 3. And you see how sudden he is with that cut. Everything stays in stride because that's not an indicator as to what he's going to do. That's what gets this DB to be fully committed. He fully commits his hips. He's running downhill, and then I pop this thing off right now, right in stride. Okay, so that's the key here with Jeudy being able to get some separation on this. He breaks up full speed, hips and shoulders to this thing, keeping the same stride length, snaps those eyes. That's what draws the DB in. Now, when we make this sudden change of direction, this cut, it's sudden because it doesn't give him an indicator as to what I'm doing, but also the suddenness of that cut creates explosion, right? So when you're sudden with that cut, you can push off of that leg and you can drive off of that leg, and that's what forces you outside and widens the distance, right? Because it's all about creating explosion. We're going to get into this later when we talk about our cuts with the ball in our hands, right? That yards after the catch, right? But when we pop this thing off in the ground, it's about creating explosion. So if I can create some explosion here, that could shoot me out to accelerate. I can keep my head down and widen the distance, right? So you see how we get him to bite? What does Jeudy not do right here? He doesn't look back right away. He doesn't think, oh, I beat this guy, I'm going to look back right away. Now, it's a different situation when maybe you're on the goal line, right? You're on the goal line, you're doing this kind of a thing. You're working a Sluggo, maybe you're working like a hitch and go on the goal line, right? Any kind of goal line variation, maybe you're the 15 going in, not necessarily the goal line, like any kind of red zone route, you might want to look a little bit sooner. But when we're in the open field and we get this guy to bite, the goal now is the quarterback's going to put this on a good spot. He's going to throw this thing with some air. He's going to let me go run it down. So I got to keep my head down. I got to continue to widen out, and I'm not looking till I know I got some separation. I'm for sure beating this guy. I'm looking back for the ball. I was able to keep my acceleration off of that cut, use that explosion to shoot me out. You want to think of breaks, fellas, as like a 40-yard dash, right? That first like 10 yards, what are you trying to do? You're trying to be as explosive as possible, trying to create as much energy as possible to accelerate you throughout the next like 30 yards or so, right? Same idea with the break. At the top of the break, you're trying to create as much explosion as possible to shoot you into the final phase 3 of that route, which is the acceleration phase, okay? So let's watch this thing again, full speed. Great route here by Jeudy. Again, breaking here, 1, 2, 3. Commit those hips, commit those shoulders, pop that cut off, and make sure I accelerate and burst upfield. That's a great route. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at this route here from Thielen. We're going to be talking about how he's able to change direction on this post out so well. So again, a lot about changing direction at the top of the break, right? It's about being explosive, being violent with your hips, being powerful with your steps. I think that's what I want to stress out of this the most. So you see when he breaks to the post, right? You see how sudden he is with that cut, right? No indicator, trying to make this look the exact same. We're trying to make everything about this look like a post. So when he breaks off here, he comes off and he breaks on the second step. Now, how he's able to change direction like this while keeping the same speed off of that break is by being violent with his hips, right? So you see how he sinks those hips or he drops those hips aggressively, but also his steps are powerful. When you guys that's the thing that a lot of people don't do, is they'll drop their hips, but their steps are super choppy, right? So they'll get into a break, like whether maybe even if it's like a 45 break or a 90 break, like you got a dig or you got like a curl or a comeback, they'll drop their hips aggressive, but their steps are super choppy. And what ends up happening is they'll drift forward, right? You want to be powerful with those steps. Now, when I say powerful, I don't mean being on your heels. You see where Thielen's weight is? It's on like that inside part of his foot, so he could actually push and drive out of there and create some explosion and create some burst to shoot him out of this break. But again, you don't want your feet to be soft. You don't want your feet to be choppy. There's two places that you don't want to be. You don't want to be on your heels to slow you down because then you don't have any explosion, and you don't want to be on your toes. Like imagine if Thielen tried to change direction right here and he was on his tippy toes, he'd be falling forward and he'd run right into this DB because he has no, he doesn't really like stop himself in the ground. He doesn't use it as an anchor, right? But when you're powerful with your steps here at the top of the break like he is, he's here, powerful with his steps, that power creates explosion, and you could use that explosion and turn it into acceleration like we were talking about and snap that head around and make that play. It's a great job here by Thielen. Let's watch this thing again, full speed one more time. So he's coming off here, breaks to that post, snaps this thing off, makes sure I'm violent with my hips and powerful with my steps. That's how I can change direction. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at Justin Jefferson. We're going to be looking at this move after he catches the ball, right? I get this question asked a lot. Hey, coach, how can I make space from this DB when I have the ball in my hands? What can I do after I catch the ball? What can I do yards after the catch? How can I get better at that? Now, the thing is, when you guys make these cuts, you want to treat it just like a release, right? So you see how Jefferson, when he's here, he's going to be throwing his upper half to the outside. Because what's this deep? What is the defender going to be looking at? He's going to be looking at my hips. He shouldn't be. If he's looking up at your eyes or looking up at your shoulders, it should be easy. And I know damn well he ain't going to be looking at your feet, right? He's going to be trying to wrap you up, try to get you at that hips and make a tackle. So I got to make sure that it's just like off the line when you're facing, if you guys have been keeping up with this channel, when you're facing a DB who's pressed, who's going to try to get hands, who's going to try to get physical, what's he going to be looking at? He's going to be looking at your hips. He's not going to be looking at your eyes, not going to be looking at your shoulders. He's going to be looking at your hips. So if you can throw your hip and you can throw out almost like a crossover in basketball, that's what's going to get you separation. So you see how Jefferson is here, and you see how much he throws his upper half. He's turning his whole shoulders, turning his hips, throwing his hips out almost like a crossover. But what has he got? He's got his toes straight forward. Because when you guys, and this is something so technical that you're not going to be able to think about this during an actual game, but you're not going to be able to think about this during an actual game, but this is something that you can actually rep and something that you can actually practice on your own when you're working on your cuts. You see how his toes stay forward because that keeps the weight on the inside arch of his foot. And when you have that shin angle that's almost like a 45 degree, you can push and create some explosion out of there. So that's how you see guys like Jerry Jeudy, why they have such explosive cuts. And I'm not saying it has to be like him, because if you guys have seen him cut, it's pretty freaky looking because his knees almost like touch the ground. Like, it's ridiculous, but that's how much he's driving off that inside part of his foot, because that's where he's creating that explosion, right? Obviously, I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking for you to be like almost like your knees are touching. I'm just asking you to keep your toes forward, because if you open up your toe and you throw this cut, you're here, you're going to have this real long path with your hips, and it's going to be a slow, it's going to be a slow, not explosive cut, right? So we want to make sure that, again, we sell with my upper half, I throw this thing out, I push, and I'm driving off that leg, keeping a good pad level, so if I do get a hand on me or somebody does grab me, I can still keep my balance and I can still work. Let's watch this thing again, full speed one more time. Great cut here without the ball by Justin Jefferson. We're getting this 1, 2, 3. It's just like a release. You want to treat cuts after that just like a release. Now we're going to be looking at the same one here from Devonta Adams, right? So you see when he comes off here, it's almost like when he works that famous like double up release, right? Where he'll go in then out. It's the same idea, fellas. Like, if you guys want to, like, the thing is, so many people ask me like, oh, do you have any drills to get better at cutting? You know, any drills to get better at yards after the catch? Like, any kind of cutting drill when it comes to moves at the top of the route, like any kind of stick drill, any kind of rocker step drill, any kind of release drill helps you with those cuts in open field, okay? You know, I was never one to work on those cuts in open field. It always kind of came more natural from just working these types of drills. And you see Devonta Adams, perfect example. He just throws that 1-2. And you see how he uses that first leg. Anytime you guys are going to throw, let's take a look at his inside leg right here. Anytime you guys are going to throw a double up, right? Whether it's off the line, whether you're attacking leverage, whether you have the ball in your hands, you want to use that first step to push you out. So you see how sudden he is with that first step. You see he's pushing here. He's pushing like a crossover. And you see, again, what do we talk about? That shin angle. We were just talking about that on the other side. When a lot of the best guys do the exact same thing, that's probably something that you guys should be focusing on, right? So when a lot of the best guys in the game keep their toes forward on their cuts, they're pushing off that inside arch, and they're using that push to throw their hip out. They're not throwing their hip open. They're not turning open that foot. They're throwing out, and they're selling with their upper half. Because when you could throw out like a crossover, like you're literally just crossing this guy guy up, that's what moves him off this platform, right? And you see, again, keeps those toes forward, so what? He could burst off of that leg, and you see how much push he has off of that cut, because that push is like that explosion, just like the top of the break, and that push will turn that explosion into acceleration, where I could just drive out of this break or drive off of this cut and go make a play downfield or go get some more yards. That's a great job by Devonta Adams, working that yards after the catch, working that nice cut right here to make this DB miss. That's a great job. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope this video gave you guys some value on just like, route running in terms of how to get out of breaks a little bit cleaner, how to make moves after you have the ball in your hands. And again, guys, if you want to get better at press releases, you want 20 different press releases with specific drills to work on those releases and the specific technique behind it and when to use it in a game scenario, because a lot of people know the technique, not a lot of people know when to use the technique. Check out that very first link in the description. If you guys have any questions, leave those in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible, and I'll see you guys next time.